before we close, would you be willing to stick around for a Flags of Change segment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Well,
Awesome.
Kelly actually recommended that we talk about the flag of the Society of the Cincinnati, which I personally had never heard of. So in this segment, just tee it up, we pick a flag and we follow it back to where it came from and the people, behind the movement. And so this flag, I think, comes from right down the road. Mm-hmm. It's founded by officers of the Revolution who went back to ordinary life when the war ended.
Yes.
And I guess there's a North Carolina chapter in Hillsborough that's still around.
Yeah.
And so Kelly's going to tell us, a little bit about, I guess, start with what is the Society of the Cincinnati?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Society of the Cincinnati, it was sort of a fraternal organization. So I'm a descendant of it, but technically not allowed in it because of that pesky X chromosome. But the Society of the Cincinnati was founded by officers of the Continental Army. So they would have been folks who were commissioned officers in the Continental Line. So not just standard run-of-the-mill soldiers, somebody who had a little bit of power in it. It's originally started, the very first chapter is created by Henry Knox. And George Washington serves as sort of the first president of it, alongside the Marquis de Lafayette, our French revolutionary who sort of comes to our aid. But that's founded up in Newburgh, New York in May of 1783. And quickly, sort of other chapters are founded in all of the original 13 colonies. And then the addition of France, the Marquis de Lafayette goes on and creates his own chapter to sort of acknowledge the officers who served in the Continental Line on our behalf. So in Hillsborough, on October 3rd of 1783, many of the North Carolina officers gather at James Hogue's cabin, which is sort of up on the hill, actually right near the regulator marker in town today. And they put together the first version of the North Carolina chapter of the society. So they kind of come together and create this organization. James Hogue was a big, and that's H-O-G-G. Sometimes it's spelled as Hog. His kids later changed their name. I wonder why, because you could maybe imagine the schoolyard taunts that come from having Hog as your last name. But James Hogue was a trader. He was a merchant and sort of was one of the founding trustees of UNC. So in addition to his role of founding the Society of Cincinnati, he's sort of a big player on the stage as well.
What was their mission? Like, what were they hoping to?
Yeah, absolutely. So originally the Society of the Cincinnati, they had the main goal of the organization is to perpetuate the memory of the American Revolution, right? They're trying to keep in mind, why did we fight for this independence? Because that's sort of important as you go forward. They're also trying to keep those bonds in between the officers, just sort of like acknowledging that they went through this thing together and becoming a social organization with them to sort of keep up friendships and all of those good things. Promoting the ideals of the revolution was another big one. And then what I think is probably like the most important is that they actually set up systems to provide for families in need. So most often these are veterans who are disabled, who need medical care. It's also the wives and the children who are left behind by the folks who don't make it through the revolution. There's a particular focus on like the officers' wives, since that's sort of the goal of this chapter, but they really become sort of a mutual aid society, ensuring that these women and children who are left behind and are sort of orphaned and widowed by the war are able to continue living and don't sort of fall into destitution. So those are sort of the main things. And then nowadays, they mostly support educational efforts. Again, that kind of idea of keeping the memory of the American Revolution alive, the ideals of independence. That's more of the focus, creating educational materials, preserving important items from the American Revolution, and then also just making sure that education gets to people out in the world, and especially school children. I mean, that's the easiest place to sort of catch people and introduce them to kind of this story. So they're having a banner year this year with it being the 250th.
I bet.
God bless them for that. Trust me, the public education history classes have changed a lot.
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
this, like a session like this, you should go in if you have. and teach kids about this, they'd be fascinated. They'd learn so much more.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think the further we get away from anything, right?
Yeah.
We tend to
absolutely.
forget.
Yeah.
And it's too important to forget.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the flag, though?
Yeah.
Is it a bottle of whiskey?
No, it's not
No.
a bottle of whiskey,
What's the
not
flag?
a bottle of whiskey. So the flag, it's 13 stripes for the 13 colonies, so just like the U.S. flag, but it's in blue and white. It's like kind of a light, almost like Tar Heel blue, of course. Yes. I don't think that's why they picked it to be that color, but it's initially... The idea was that it was representing the allegiance of America and France. Rather than having 13 stars, though, it actually has 14 stars. So that's each of the original colonies and then that French chapter that gets added on. Sort of a funny story. I was talking to my dad because it was Father's Day this past weekend and asking him if he knew anything about the flag since he's a part of the society, the Cincinnati. And he told me that a few years ago, he was looking at our flag that was hanging off of our porch and he was counting the stars. And he's like, there's the wrong number of stars on that flag. And there were 13 rather than 14. So there are a couple society flags running out around there.
Fraudulent.
Yeah, just because 13 stars is what you would expect to see from flags of the time period. 14 is kind of an odd one. We don't see that super often. So now there's the correct flags that are sort of running around. But my dad, I felt like I owed it to him to share that he was the one that sort of was staring at the flag enough to be able to figure that one out from whoever was, I know it wasn't you guys producing it, but whoever was producing it at the time.
Trying to save a buck. Right?
Yeah, I know.
That's all it was.
They won't notice it.
It's not quite as aesthetically pleasing, too, because like with 14, it's like...
Yeah, it's a little off.
It's a little off.
Yeah.
It's a little off. But yeah, and then the last thing that's on the flag is the eagle, the society's insignia. It's designed by Charles Pierre L'Enfant, who also designed and laid out Washington, D.C. That's sort of where most people will know him from. There's a D.C. metro station that's named after him. But he creates the American, it's an American bald eagle, and it has the ancient Roman hero Cincinnatus. So that would be Lucius Quintus Cincinnatus. He was sort of this figure known for becoming one of the dictators of Rome and then sort of deciding that he is going to give up his power, give up the sword, and instead take up his farming implements once again. So George Washington, because he steps down from being the president after 2 terms and decides to head back to Mount Vernon, head back to his farm, he's known as the American Cincinnatus. This is sort of the like lore behind the Society of the Cincinnati and sort of the thing that they praise. So the whole point of the Society of the Cincinnati is these officers turning away from wartime and turning into peace, becoming people who are providing for their communities, which I think is a beautiful sentiment. But yeah, the eagle itself, you'll notice it has downturned wings, again, not like taking off in flight, and an olive branch, a literal representation of peace, in addition to that little depiction of Cincinnatus. So it's said to emphasize the founding of a peaceful American republic and the return of its soldiers to their citizen lives.
Nice. Can anybody join, or is it open to just descendants?
It's
or how
open
does it
to just descendants, so it's
That's
one
what
of
I
the
thought.
more
Very
like
exclusive.
Yeah,
And
it's one of the
male,
more
sounds
yes,
like.
only
Male
men,
descendants.
only male descendants.
now know how a woman feels.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
I'm excluded.
Excluded. There are some
You
honorary.
might be a descendant. You don't know.
That is true.
Well, that's true.
It's true.
It's true. Okay.
Ancestry.com.
Yeah, there are also honorary members that are appointed. There's quite a few different.
Wait, sneak in?
Yeah, there's like, I mean, if you were to become like, I don't know, the president of the United States,
For
usually they're
example.
pretty eligible for an honorary membership. So, that's a pretty easy one to obtain.
Well, it sounds like they do wonderful work, though. The whole premise of it is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for
Thank you.
educating us on multiple things, and thank you for the work you do with the Alliance.
Absolutely.
And, this
Hopefully
was a
we'll
real treat.
Yeah, it really was. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see y'all at the whiskey tasting table in
absolutely.
September.
Thanks for listening to Freedom and Glory, Tales of American Spirit. If today's story moved you, share it with someone who'd appreciate it. Subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find us. And when you're ready for American-made flags and products built to last, visit freedomandglory.com. One flag, a million stories, yours included.